Hello, everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, Bridge to a Better Life discussion. Hi, everyone. My name is Marcia Trajano, and with me is my good friend Anne Sinclair. And we're both here returning to the program to explore a very big topic to me, Anne. And thank you so much for guiding us into this discussion. Today, we're going to talk about attachment, love, and fear separation, focusing mostly on the attachment part, right, Anne? So, Anne, how are you?
I'm great. And thank you so much, Marcia, for inviting me to be part of this conversation. I feel that whenever I have the opportunity to participate, I am the one that is blessed because I have the opportunity to study, reflect, and think about it in my own life as well. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And it goes both ways. But let's talk. And just to reframe our discussions, and I'm thinking that we should explore this set of what I call deeply human experience, right? Which are, as I said before, attachment, love, and separation. And how these experiences will shape the way we relate to ourselves and to others. And it's important for all of us to think about it because I thought about it for a brief moment, right? Those are not just concepts, theoretical ideas, yes, emotional, but they're just not there. These reflect psychological patterns, biological response, and in many spiritual traditions, opportunities for growth and awareness. So, the proposal here is for us to move through several interconnected threads, and which number one would be perhaps we can start about what attachment is, then we move on what love truly is, and maybe we can have time to talk about why is separation so painful and what can we do to lessen the suffering so that we can attain a sense of peace and stability even. So, Anne, let's imagine these threads and these discussions and how love connects with all of us. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, one of the first things I do when I am going to study anything to do with spirituality, with the works of John de Angelis, or anything, she always says to start by the beginning. I say,
Mhm.
what does the word actually mean? And how do we use it? And
Yeah,
of course, words evolve and they have their meanings evolve through time and culture across the globe. So if I say the word attachment, you might immediately think something glued to something else, whether
yeah,
you're glued to your possessions or you're glued to your loved ones. You think you're attached to them, you don't want to let go of them. But I'll start from where I can find, and this is something also that I studied as a public health nurse, working with young families in the United Kingdom. And before, it's interesting. The work of attachment in psychology can be sort of dated back to a person called Balby, and they did their research in the 1960s, end of the 1950s, 1960s.
mhm,
So they were trying to understand how infants developed a sense of relationships that then carried on into adulthood. So they started doing like scientific research, literally having a mother with a baby, separating them. Do they cry? Don't they cry? Quite sort of materialistic observation, but it was the first time that they wanted to try and scientifically understand how these things developed and create classification methods, and could this explain behaviors later on in life or even like at school and
yeah.
adolescence. Yeah.
I have to tell you something, and sorry for interrupting your thought process. Just give a little bit of what I've done. This is, and oh, I think about 20 years ago, I used to volunteer and was a highly coveted volunteer for medical students, right? And
Mhm.
why me not being a medical student? Why did I get the opportunity to volunteer is because of my language skills, right?
Mm.
Because of being able to speak Portuguese and Spanish in addition to English, I could be the bridge between the medical team and especially that set of population that have premature babies.
Mm.
Okay, and what did I do for a long time? I would spend about 3 hours every Sunday um, holding. That's all I did. Holding close to my heart a premature baby.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was just a rocking chair. And they would tell me, just do this. And I'm rocking myself, thinking of those days because they look like a little doll, right?
Yeah.
Just really. And they said, talk to them. So I'm like, okay. When I did this to my own children, I would speak in Portuguese. So I would speak in Portuguese. And I would just go, hi, little baby. And I would sing lullabies. And that's all. And why do they need me? Because this was a central, regional NICU, right, for
Mm.
neonatal hospital. And a lot of people lived outside of the state, even, and they could only come maybe once a week to see their babies if they're there 3 months sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, really interesting because it was all about, I guess, what you're going to talk about that research between mothers and infants on the bond that comes from the human touch. But take it away. I just thought memory just came rushing in, and on
And so,
this.
Marcia, thank you so much for sharing, because that is such a beautiful example of how even, intuitively, you want to cuddle and look after that little baby.
Yeah,
And I will talk about instincts and love a little bit further on. So I'm
sure.
just starting with the attachment first. And the how we form attachments as a baby, and we form attachments with our caregivers, which according to Bowlby, it would be the mother. So the attachment theory in psychology progressed much more. It started with Bowlby, but it's then had lots of many different authors contributing and developing and enhancing it. And one of the things that comes out at the end is sometimes you can get a magazine and they say like, oh, what attachment type are you, based on how you relate to others, because this model of relationship that you develop early on in your infancy, it and okay, they do also studies where some parts is like up to 6 weeks, and the other one is like till 9 months, and then 9 months to 12 months. So they have different phases of it, and how it shows up, and what's important, what's less important. So I'm not going to go into all of that, but just saying that the way that we learn to make relationships at our earliest stages forms what they call like a model of relationship that is internalized in us. And we can be completely unaware of it, but this is our
Yeah.
model that goes with us through life. So depending on how that model of relationship was formed when we were little, this is how our relationships will be when we are teenagers, when we are young adults, when we are elderly. Now, one important thing is that first we need to consider that we are eternal spirits,
Yes.
that we've had lives before, that we will have lives afterwards, and this is a unique experience that we're going through, a learning opportunity, and that whatever happened to us in childhood, let's say if we had an unresponsive caregiver, an unloving mother, whatever, that doesn't mean that we are doomed. That's really important, because they all,
So let's just stop here. What do you mean by that? So let me
all
see if
that,
I can go back to you. So there's a
yeah.
model, right? In the
Let's say
model,
we had a
yeah,
mother that was unresponsive. That means that
yeah.
then we grow up thinking like we can't trust anybody, because when we needed something, the adults didn't come to our needs. So we
And
have
what you're saying is
internalized.
This
We
model
come
is
true.
for, yeah, for material life today, but as immortal spirits, we have a past that can hold us. And I'm thinking, what came to my mind is, we don't have to interrupt because this is really important, your description of this research in the model, but maybe we can talk later. And is, what about, say, and I know someone, this child is now, I think, going to college, right? But he was adopted. He lived in an orphan, and he was 3 when the parents here in the US were able to adopt. He was born in, um, lived in an orphanage outside of this country, and it was a very difficult first 3 years, right?
Mm,
And I think it may be that the whole, how that child dealt, and he is an amazing young kid, well, young adult at this point, and it is so interesting. But go ahead. I just thought that those
yeah.
visual
So,
memories are coming to me as you speak.
so we have like the scientists, the psychologists, they are observing human behavior. They're
Hmm.
writing it all up scientifically. They're replicating and they're making their theories, which are really
Hmm.
helpful in order for us to have a framework on which
Hmm.
to understand how human relationships develop and why I'm 24 and I can't have a happy, all my relationships, when they start getting serious, I break them up, and I don't even know why, and I go off,
Hmm.
and I can't take it further because obviously there are lots of internal things. I'm not simplifying anybody's life, but
Hmm.
the way we form relationships, the way we trust others to fulfill our needs as necessary, that to know that they have, inverted commas, our backs, that we can trust them. Uh, this is embedded in childhood. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be the biological mother or father, it can be the caregiver. Sometimes it can be a grandparent, it can be an aunt, it can be an adoptive parent, but it's from birth. So, we have this, all the different phases that you go developing your attachment. So I think what I want to say is that we need to be mindful that we've developed this and we have this model of relationships embedded in us unconsciously. We're unaware of it, but it guides us and it manifests in us in the way we
Mhm.
form our relationships. It might be that as we grow and develop, we go like, I have a problem forming relationships.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
decided to
Yeah.
go to a therapist. Say, what's going
Yeah.
on with me? Why can't I form a relation? So I'm quite an awake spirit, and I've identified that, and I want to go and change it and modify my interior model. But I might be a spirit that's still a bit sort of asleep and
Yeah.
unawares. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just on the automatic pilot, if you like, that I am doing that. But it's not, I want to take it away from like, oh, this is bad for you. That's you're going to suffer because you had, a bad childhood or whatever. Not necessarily, because that lesson is also teaching you something really important. And as I was saying, we're all eternal spirits. We are coming into this at different ages, let's put it that way,
Mhm.
different spiritual
Mhm.
ages, different levels of consciousness. So if we are still a spirit that is quite asleep, early stages, we might not be recognizing anything, and we're just acting and reacting and living life like that.
Yeah.
But if you're on this program, you're probably looking for something and you have already a consciousness that is awakening, because if not, you'd be busy watching the television and seeing the latest sports or whatever instead of watching this program. So I kind of assume that you've been attracted here is because you're interested to understand why these things happen.
Mhm.
So most of the observations, so what I want to say is this is very recent in human science. So the 1950s, 1960s,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
even that's not even 100 years of science of relationships. Before that, there was philosophy, and there was other ways of explaining things. But this was trying to imbue, let's say, scientific methodology into the psychology. And as I say, other authors came along and they went altering it. And one of the things that they went saying, actually, this business of attachment is really, really complex.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, this happened, then this is the result, automatic,
Mhm. Yeah.
and you're engaged in that. That's not like that. It's this happens, this tends to happen, but you are a unique individual. And one of the authors that comes on later talks about temperament.
Mm.
So when I see he talks about temperament that the child has, that's something that the spirit brings, their temperament.
That's a good point, right? You
Also,
may
it's
have
not,
all the models for us to at least learn and be aware as parents or as the child that is now grown, but there's something that it transcends the nurture, right? That
yeah,
nature component of who we are. Yeah,
yeah. And so this is the famous nurture
yeah,
nature debate
yeah,
that is never
yeah,
ending. But if we take a point of view from spirituality, we say
yeah.
we are spiritual beings, we are having a temporary experience on earth, which is facilitating us with many lessons that are embedded in the genetics, in the nature, in the way the planet works, in the times in which we arrive. So my
Mhm.
childhood, well, I was born in the 1950s, but my childhood, if I was born, in the
Yeah.
1700s, would have been
Oh,
very different.
yeah.
Or in the year 800, you know what I mean? So the year in which you're
And the
born
location, right? The gender,
and the
the
location
location, the
and
class that you belong to. Yes,
yeah, the
absolutely.
class you belong to, whether you're male or female,
Hmm.
whether you have a robust physical body or you have a weak physical
Hmm.
body, all these things. So rather than being disappointed, for example, oh, maybe I didn't have a very good childhood and now I have a difficulty forming relationships, is to think like, no, what is this teaching me?
Yeah,
What are the opportunities of learning from this? Because we have to learn everything, and even the lessons that are less pleasant, if you like, but
yeah,
always knowing that everything is transient on this planet.
yeah. And
And
by the way, the hardest, the most significant lessons are usually the hardest one to
yeah.
learn, but those are the one that catapults us to the next level of consciousness. Right.
Yeah. So when talking about attachment, I just wrote down here the kind of definition that you might find. Obviously, there's always different definitions. Um, it's a deep, enduring, emotional bond between two people, which provides security and influences future relationships. So that's from a
Mm.
psychological point of view,
Mhm.
how they talk about it. They also talk about attachment managing stress, fear, and uncertainty. If you think of yourself as a baby and
Mhm.
you don't know where your next meal is coming from, you cry and you hope that somebody's going to bring you your milk.
Yeah,
Whether,
yeah,
whether it's the mum breastfeeding or whether it's a bottle, that somebody's going to respond to that primeval need for food. The same
yeah,
way you have that primeval need for security, feeling safe emotionally and physically, away from threats of
yeah,
animals, of noises, of all kinds of things that could threaten your life. So you have the instinct of survival, which is embedded in you. And then the other thing is the uncertainty. So this is something that, as a family nurse, when we used to always try to, obviously, this is the current scientific knowledge. Things can progress, and then they say it's not so.
yeah,
Back in the Victorian days, here in the UK, I don't know how it was in America, but if a baby cried, they would say to you, "Don't go to the baby. You need to
yeah.
make them strong and resilient."
Yeah, it's
And if
very interesting, right?
it's not going back to
Make
them,
make them suffer, make them. But yes, when I was a young mother, that's what I was told as well,
exactly.
right?
Oh, the famous one,
Don't go, leave
don't
them,
go.
let them
Yeah,
cry. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
If not, you'll be going all the time. And now, thank goodness, they've changed the advice. Is now when your baby's about to cry, go. Anticipate your baby, and that will
yeah,
give them a sense of security that they have a mom or a giver who is on the ball, who is paying attention to them, that anticipates their needs, that is
yeah,
there as soon as they make a little grimace, there, okay, darling, got you. And that was, although it's hard work when you have a baby, the
Yeah.
theory is that then when they're 2-year-olds, they're secure because they've had that embedded and they trust 100% that when they have a need, it will be met. So they're not
Yeah.
worried about how am I going to deal with this, or and
Yeah.
not also going off, I don't care, nobody cares about me, I don't care about anybody kind of child that go around the world, then causing trouble to themselves and to others.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how things have evolved. But also, let's say from a historical context, we're saying
Hmm.
in the Victorian times, the majority of the people are being brought up to be workers, factory workers, soldiers, and you need to conform, you need to behave, you can't have individuality. So,
True. True.
all that
Yeah.
machinery in which the human being is a cog in the machinery.
Can I go back just a thing, just to make sure that we talk about? So, within the theory, and of course, how culture, and when we talk about culture, is that Victorian era to modern era, for example, and I'm sure it's shifting as we speak, right? And
Yeah.
the theory around attachment is really critical, and it's rooted in survival, right? To for the baby, the infant, and while they form those bonds, which can be done with caregivers, right? Or mom,
Yeah.
dad, aunt, grandma, the nanny, whatever. They will, their proximity, right? They're either addressing or anticipating their needs will increase the sense of safety. Love that. But over time, survival that led to a sense of safety leads also to that sense of trust, right? That permeates your adulthood. How do I
Mm.
trust or not? And of course, how uh, do I use fear as a defense mechanism?
Mm.
And is it also, and this is what I'm thinking now, does it also mean fear of abandonment? That's I'm thinking because of the child that, you know, those children out there, there are many that are perhaps adopted. Beautiful thing to do, but what is that mechanism within that child that needs to be uh, overcome, which
Mm.
is fear as a survival mechanism, but now fear from an abandonment perspective. I was abandoned before, quote unquote, abandoned before, will I be abandonment? And how it all connects with the idea of connection, right? Bond, attachment. Did I get it? I just wanted
Yeah,
to check with you.
absolutely. And when you're
Yeah.
talking about adoption, also when you think
Mm,
again, like the knowledge we have, the scientific knowledge that we have about relationships, about the inner world of children and adolescents, even,
mhm.
it's very recent.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, my generation, for example,
Mhm.
children were adopted and they were never told that they were adopted.
That's right. Yeah.
So they do have the sense of abandonment in them because this is an experience that they have passed and you
Yeah.
cannot deny it. They have also spent 9 months in close contact with their birth mother before they're born,
Yeah.
forming a relationship with that person.
Mhm.
And so you can't pretend that nothing of this happened. But back in the day, they thought that if the family was loving, then all that could be erased. I think
Yeah.
the thought nowadays is that without giving it exaggerated importance, it's an
Mm.
element that might affect some children in different ways.
Yeah.
Because we have
Yeah.
what we call the other psychologists calls temperament, but which I will call the spirit. What
Mhm.
do you bring?
Yeah.
Who are you as a spirit? And have you had experiences like this before? And this is just magnifying it because, oh no, here we go again, kind of scenario. Or is this happening to you the first time, or you're quite an awakened and you're able to deal with it? And that's why you see so many different outcomes and so many
Yeah.
different types of needs that these spirits have who have
Yeah.
been adopted. I think there is a case, and I did work in doing translation of documents for
Mhm.
intercountry adoptions back in the 90s,
Interesting. Yeah,
which are now pretty much not allowed anymore
yeah,
because they cause so many problems. And
yeah,
and sometimes what the obviously I'm translating the documents, and sometimes the social worker is concerned that the parents who want to adopt
yeah,
are looking to satisfy a need of their own
yeah, yeah,
rather than to provide for the child. So that their emotional needs, they're trying to meet their emotional needs by adopting a child.
yeah, yeah. The
Complex.
it's very interesting, and you were the person translating.
Mm,
I also did some work, but it was all I know so many people and that couples, right, that have
mm,
adopted little ones, and for whatever reason, I have been asked and penned reference letters about who they are, right, as people.
yeah.
And of course, because I did that, I stayed close, and so I have all those narratives, and you get the good, the bad, and the ugly in those. We could go forever talking. We're not going to talk about it now. It's not what we're saying, but it's this really interesting experience, and I think you bring something that's really important. Why do we adopt? Do we adopt because we have love to give, right? Or do we adopt because we have a hole, if you will, a metaphorical hole in our hearts? We cannot conceive, therefore we want to do this. And I've worked with many homosexual couples, men
Mm,
and women separately, and that brought me the storyline. It's a movie called The Kids Are All Right, and it's not new, but it's about a couple, a lesbian couple, that the two teenagers, they know they're adopted, right?
mm.
They know,
Yeah, of
but
course.
that thing that you're talking about, there's, even though for those who do not know, they um, they are, in fact, there's this thing that they need to deal with, and it's a very interesting movie because it speaks of the whole journey and the difficulty, the impact to everyone involved, the
Mm,
biological father in this case, the two women, and the two uh, kids, and it's just in that case was a quest that it's okay. Adopting parents should not fear for the kids looking for a
yeah.
narrative to explain how they feel, right?
I think it has a lot to do. I'm not a psychologist, okay, so just caveat there. Uh, Especially in adolescence, search for identity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who am I? Where do I belong? Why do I look like this? Why do I behave like this? And
Hmm.
you're looking at your parents to see, am I like my mom? Am I like my dad? And if you don't know who
Yeah,
your mom is, your biological mom, your biological dad, you're
yeah,
wondering if they were like that. Why did they feel they needed to give you up for adoption?
yeah,
There's been lots of adoptions, 1970s, well, endless, through violence, through
yeah,
kidnapping, all kinds of horrible things. We're not going there today.
yeah.
But go back to we are all eternal spirits.
Yes,
And I'm going to move on to, we're talking about attachment here, and like from a psychological point of view, this, what they call this enduring emotional bond, and the
hmm,
ability to form enduring emotional bonds as you then grow up
correct.
and
Yeah,
having those relationships. So I
yeah.
just want to bring in love into it, because
Oh,
of course,
I love love. Let's talk about love. Yes. Let's
I
move
was
on.
as I was writing my notes, it just came into my head, and what's love got to do with this? I said,
Oh,
it's a
I
really
love
talking
it.
about this.
Tina Turner. Yes.
So one of the things I did take, there is a book of Joanna called Existential Conflicts, and she has a chapter on
Yes.
love.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that love, I mean, we all have our model of love and what we imagine. And if we go here to the Cambridge Dictionary, It's like saying a strong feeling of liking something, somebody, being romantically involved with somebody, all kinds of things like that. But Joanna de Angelis brings us love at a different level. And she proposes love as this breath of God, this breath of creation that starts like an energy and starts its life as the force that brings molecules together and transitions through all the minerals, like holding minerals together, through the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom. And she's talking about this energy that is love that evolves as well. So it's this strength that then comes into human beings. And she talks about, and this is something that I found is really interesting. Where's my spirits book here? It's a question that I often come to. Oh, now I forgot which the number is. I think it's 860.
Okay. You don't have to. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
No. Okay. I forgot. I wrote it down here, but yeah, obviously 890. Sorry.
890. Yeah. And this is good for us to know if you want to read about the question, the answer. But go ahead, Anne, please.
Yeah, and the question 890 is about the law of justice, love, and charity. So, in case you don't know the Spirits book, it's a book of questions and answers, and written in the 19th century. The questions are put by a French educator, Allan Kardec, and the answers are given by the Spirits. Yes. And we study it until today because it has many very interesting things for us to learn. So, in question 890, the question is maternal love a virtue? Or is it an instinctive sentiment common to both humans and animals? We could be asking this question today, couldn't we?
I know.
And the answer is
timeless.
It's both.
Yes.
It's both.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to explain that obviously everything in God's creation is in a sequence. Everything is connected. They aren't separate things, this. Everything is connected and intertwined. So if we observe in the animal kingdom, particularly mammals, like if you have a cat, a dog, or if you watch nature programs, you watch the lions, you will see how they look after their babies when they're born, how they feed them, how they groom them, how they protect them from predators, how they teach them how to hunt. There's like the lion. I remember seeing a program was where the mother lion's out trying to teach her baby lions to hunt, and they're not.
It's adorable, right? A fierce creature, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
You can literally see the lioness. Her eyes just roll like, oh gosh, okay, let's try again.
That is awesome.
And you're thinking, okay, this is we say this is instinct in the animals. So this is a natural impulse embedded in your genetic makeup, but not just in your genetic makeup. We say, like, how does a mother monkey know how to look after her baby monkey?
Yeah.
And they'll say, depends what kind of mother monkey she had.
Yes.
So
the generational teachings,
right?
The
way when you are looked after as a baby monkey or dog, the way your parent looks after you is embedded as the way that you look after your child. So it's an automatic process. It's instinctive. And we humans do the same. We are also instinctive, except that we are not just instinct. We are also rational spiritual beings. So although, like I say, when we're doing things on an instinctive level, we're just doing it like what I call like an automatic pilot.
Yeah.
But we can change that and have consciousness. So when our consciousness goes awakening, you go like, okay, hang on, I don't want to do this way. Let's try a different way. And that's that awakening of consciousness. So Joanna de Angelis brings us the idea that the feeling of love is born at the time that we gain consciousness, that we start to awaken. Before that, it's instinct. So it might be that if we are still not on the way, starting to awaken as a spirit, as a conscious being, we are living instinctively. And the instincts are good. It's not bad. Like people, your instincts are bad. No, it's good. It's the school for a primary level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Progress, you have more say on how you're going to do things at school, isn't it so? When you're in primary, you have no say. Everybody tells you what you're supposed to do. By the time you get to college, you're choosing your subjects, you're choosing different things, you're focusing more on what you like. So you're having more choice and opportunity because you're bigger, older, more mature, more developed. And
yeah.
that happens in parallel spiritually as well. Our progress is natural. And as we develop and grow, and as we go awakening, so it's saying, like, the spirit, like, is sleeping and then it's dreaming and then starts awakening and then it's being able to fulfill projects and do things. So we're on
Yeah,
this spiritual journey. So we might be just awakening, because Shravana says that is when we can start to identify the feeling of love.
love it. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah,
But she reminds us that we are very close to the instincts. There is still the overlapping, as it says there in the Spirit's book. There is this still, the instincts are still very present in us, but we're
yeah,
starting to wake up and we're starting to have higher feelings like love.
yeah.
And love is when, if we take back to the famous saying, like Jesus, love your neighbor as yourself.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so how are you going to love your neighbor? How are you going to form a relationship? Is loving your neighbor. But you need
Yeah,
to love yourself first in order to
yes.
be able to love your neighbor. So if we don't love ourselves, if we don't develop our self-love, which is not selfishness, it's our understanding of who we are, where we are, what we're doing here, and how we can be connected to the energy of love that's in the universe, that is God's breath. And that gives us a creative possibility. So,
Can I ask something else, because that came to my mind? And when because we're moving attachment to love, but to understand love, you're breaking into instinct versus love, and really appreciate you bringing Joanna's definition, right? That
mm,
what did you say? That love is
begins
really
to show up when we start to wake up,
yes, that
because
awareness, right? That not only
our
awareness
ability to
from
love,
a, yes, the consciousness when we are
the
able,
consciousness,
yeah, to understand. But
because
I think what's important for me, and I just again wanted give feedback so that you correct me.
mm,
This is such good material. But while we are still much closer in our immortal, this evolution, the immortal spirit, we are still very close to our instinct versus our awakened spirit, our evolved spirit, our understanding of love is still very instinctual, not bad, but just a recognition,
yeah,
right? So
exactly.
I'm now going back to the example of the lion pride, right, where the lioness has those cubs and they play and blah blah, but there is a sense of commitment, if you were to put human emotions into that, a commitment of care, commitment to feeding, and commitment. But from a instinctive perspective, you would say perhaps, right, there is the survival of species. So attachment here plays a question of, if, let's say, and I'm putting words into the whole theorem here, but say if I'm not attached to my pride in this case, I I may die. So there's a sense of attachment driven by fear of loss of one's life, right? But
Mm,
also close to it, there is a sense of possessiveness. This is my cub, this is my mommy and my daddy, right? But that leads to a sense of dependency. I'm talking about still instinctually, and of course, referring to the lions, but projecting to us, right?
mm,
I am perhaps still in my instinctive love, emotionally dependent on those that provided me with security. Hence, I need validation over and over again.
Yeah.
But back to that love now, not instinct. It's the emotional connection, right? It's the sense of empathy. It's really understanding the language of love in all its poetry, if you will. And I'm being metaphoric,
Yeah.
using metaphor here, right? So that you use language not just functionally, but you use language in all the myriad of opportunities to inspire us, and that would be like love. So while it's rooted in all of love, from the baby person, the baby, the human baby, to the cub, it's rooted in that survival mechanism. It's still embedded in the worst of the worst in us, in that instinct. And I say this, because there are some people that we say they personify evil. I'm going to get one out of my mind here. Hitler, he is personified. There's many others, but let's say Hitler. Even Hitler loved.
Hmm.
He was capable of destroying and hurting, but he too loved. So I think it's very important for us to know the worst of the worst is we have embedded in us, from an instinct perspective, the capacity to love, even though it is not really polished, evolved, right?
Yeah. And I think that part of the difficulty is the word love.
Yeah, true.
And I
Yeah,
think, like, if you live in the Arctic, you might have many different words for snow,
yeah,
and we only have one. So we only
yeah,
have kind of one word that means many different things, and that creates a lot of confusion, according to Joanna.
yeah,
So she says, sometimes we call love something that is purely sexual attraction, which is quite instinctive, really, the instinct of reproduction and so on. Sometimes we call love a contract, an exchange. I give you this, you give me that. You give me money and I'll be a good wife. You sustain the house and I will have a nice house for you. It's a contract, it's a give and take. The idea of romantic love, of Romeo and Juliet and kind of things, also sometimes can be almost like a fantasy
yeah,
of novels and books. She talks about sometimes love can be a projection. So I love you, not because of you, but because I see myself in you and I
yeah,
want to love myself. And
yeah,
actually, I don't know anything about you, but I
yeah,
love you because I see myself in you, kind of scenario. Happens a lot, she said, in the relationships, that people are not actually loving the other person. Or some people, they love because they don't want to be alone. They want company. So they seek for love, for relationships, and they keep those
mhm,
relationships going because they want the company. And one of the things that, as she was saying, she's not saying any of that is bad. It's just that you need to recognize what it actually is,
yeah,
and not have a delusion that this is a love with a big L, the breath of God. Because
yeah,
like then she goes like, with true love is like you're saying, that when you start to seek for beauty, for justice, for the divine, it's on a different level. And the famous phrase in love, I always remember Divaldo Franco, who obviously was Joanna's medium.
mm,
He many times used to put in his talks. He
uh,
says, love is good for he or she who gives the love. Because in order for you to give love, you need to have love. You need to
yeah,
be connected to the source of love.
yeah,
And there is a song that they sing in primary school, and it's called The Magic Penny. The more you give, the more you have. So love is like that. The more you give, the more you have. It doesn't run
yeah,
out, it's
yeah,
multiplied. And so then you start being able to envisage love as non-possessive. that you
Yes.
no longer want to possess the object of your love, whether it's your child, whether it's your spouse, whatever it is. You don't feel that you need to grab it and hold it next to you,
Yeah.
because love is just this energy that goes out, and your love can sustain them wherever they are. And
Mhm.
that is your pleasure, is to love them. And then I was saying, like, but yeah, but it's nice to be loved back. Love you.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's
And
nice when
we
people love
are,
you back. But
yeah, we are at time. I'd love
oh my God.
to have you back because I know that we proposed four topics and we reached two out of the four. So it's not good for me because now I wanted to hear more from you. So I the invitation is love to have you back, right?
Okay.
And but before we close for today, due to time, is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah. What I would like to say is that whatever our suffering
Mhm.
caused by whatever our childhood, our adulthood, know that this too will pass, that everything is a process of learning, of developing, and love is
Yeah,
there for everyone, that we
yeah,
can connect to it individually, to fill our hearts with love, the love that comes from God, that loves us unconditionally, that doesn't ask us to be perfect, that doesn't ask us to be the best in anything, that just loves
yeah,
us. And that
yeah,
we can accept and should accept that love, because then we will become a source of love as well, and
yeah.
make this world a more loving place.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Um, to me, some of the things that we start talking about, right, in terms of attachment and love, as part of this larger conversation, is they're really not separate topics. They're deeply interconnected, and they're all part of the human experience. So if we think about it, for many people, including myself, when you talk about attachment, uh, material attachment is bad. We need to learn to become detached. And I'm saying now, after listening to you, and that attachment is what connects us, is the bond that connects us, but it's a connection. We need love to elevate us, right? So I think this is a really insightful way for us to think about this whole topic. More to come. I hope Anne will be able to come back. But if not, we would just say there's more. Just call in. I'm just kidding, Anne, directly. But I want to say, Anne, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Everybody who's here with us, thank you. Thank you for showing up, right? For listening to this very important conversation, important topic. And of course, I would have to always say thanks to our sponsors, Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spirits Federation, the International Spirits Council, and AMI Brazil. And I hope to see you soon. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye.